Good evening and welcome to Where's the Art? Tonight we're going to be looking at Van Gogh in relation to the academic tradition. Good evening, Leslie. Good evening, Gino.
Hi.
Leslie, if we compare the Gogh, which is a constant picture, to a Van Gogh, there is a massive difference here. One is about a fantasy, and the other one is about realism. Tell me about the Van Gogh potato eaters.
The potato eaters. I love this painting. I think it's because I think instinctively drawn to dark issues, perhaps, observational. When an artist observes and paints what he sees, and to me it's a very appealing picture, or painting rather, piece. But you are drawn to it, aren't you? You're drawn to, for me anyway, you're drawn to the darkness of it and the theme and the poverty of the whole thing, and I think it works wonderfully well. In contrast to the other one, which is...
Yeah, you're talking like a realist talks.
Yes.
As opposed to an idealist of the academic tradition.
I think I like the academician's craft, but I don't. I certainly do subscribe to being more realist and looking at the subjects for what they are, as they are.
Yes.
And that does appeal to me.
Yes, yes. The Potato Eaters is a realist painting. And one of the early realists was Courbet. And Courbet was fed up of the academic tradition. And he said he wanted to paint the people he lived among, the people he saw in the streets. And then he went on to produce A Burial and The Stone Breakers, which were the lowest job in the land. These people would break stones, and those stones then were used to make roads. I think Van Gogh is continuing the tradition when he was trying to be a curate in the Baptist church. He was allowed to visit the poor of the land. And the story goes that he would give them everything, his clothes, his money, and he would paint them at home. And the church bishop fired him because he was too Christian. That's just a little anecdote of Van Gogh. Gino, the potato eaters.
You mentioned Courbet, but I'm going to make a parallel maybe that goes even further back, and I've just thought of it, Caravaggio. Caravaggio, were in 17th century Italy, also was one of the great revolutionaries in relation to what was happening in society. For example, his use of models of people from the street,
yes.
Or even Rembrandt, and let's not forget, Van Gogh is Dutch, so he must have knew about Rembrandt and possibly Caravaggio, this relationship with reality in relation to this. There is the big 19th century novel, Balzac. Zola is contemporary to Van Gogh and Cézanne, and they were friends. We mentioned it before. But there is a kind of, you mentioned before the religious aspect. It's like a kind of lay supper of Emmaus, the one of Caravaggio in the National. And this light on top, there is a realist aspect, but there's also, because of the religious content, there is it's a reality that is imbued maybe with spirituality. And when we go later to the landscapes, I think it goes further on in that how the spirit of creation and maybe the spirit of God is tried to be captured in
nature.
what he does. In what he does,
Yes.
there is a very strong.
I wonder.
I wouldn't call it agenda, but he wants to bring God to the people. I mean, he used to go around preaching and doing his work in Holland before he moved to Paris, and that's one of the conflicts. We see it in the correspondence between him and his brother Theo later, that it's a very strong current throughout his works.
And we see that even though he was not academically trained, Van Gogh, he used to go to the Studio Julian and other various places in Paris, which were run by academicians anyway. We can see that he learned the academic technique, but he makes it his own.
Yeah.
He's a rough painter.
Yeah, he's very instinctive.
He doesn't go for the finish of the academy. And of course he goes for the subject that would not be touched with a barge pole in the academic tradition. So he becomes an artist of the people and for the people, which is completely different to the academician, who was an artist for the establishment and for the aristocracy.
Because this is a kind of, people from the land and poor people from the land, while the Gogh is also a pagan world. That's another complete difference, that developed into the whole symbolist movement, which developed, I think, into surrealism much later with Dali, for example. With Dali. Here we're in a tradition.
Here we are down to earth, aren't we? We are treading the earth here. We're getting our feet
with
muddy.
that kind of spiritual content throughout. I think that light shining on top, there is
the metaphors, the metaphors very much there. Sapa in Emmaus is there.
And there's no attempt to beautify anything, is there? I mean,
no, there's no attempt to finish. That's right. The academic finish is nowhere to be seen there.
Which is something that maybe he took from Rembrandt already before. There is that wanting to emphasize the truth of the subject.
And letting the paint be paint.
That's very important.
It does remind me, I mean, these figures, these faces remind me of Rembrandt self-portraits, where you can see that he is, even over the years, you can see that he is getting old and he's getting, his face is changing, his nose is bulging, and and he's not afraid to capture that of himself. So there's that as well. And also his portraits, Van Gogh's portraits, are very much. And I mentioned this the other day as well. Although they're not, geometrically perfect, we said this, but it does capture his self. His drawn cheekbones and his spiky beard, and you compare that to photographs of him at the time, and there is a similarity there. His personality comes through, and I think that sense of, that heaviness in the atmosphere and in the people is very much
the sense of living.
It is
in
there,
the real world. It's been captured very, very well. Yes. Can we move on?
Another question is who was he painting this for? Because again, that's a very important thing. Was he painting it for himself to sell?
I think this was at the time when he was.
There would have been buyers for the Gogh. That's for sure.
That's right.
Not for this. That's one of the
This is at
problems.
the time when art was calling him and religion was calling him, and he was in a crossroads. So he was doing his Christian work among the peasants, but he was also using the peasants as motifs for his paintings, because he wanted to go on in his painting career. And I think it's a lovely telling story here of both sides of the person, the creative side and the religious side coming together in this type of work. He
takes on painting as a vocation.
Yes,
like you
very
take
much so.
The priesthood. He was going to go for the priesthood, but he takes painting as a vocation.
Yes, that's right.
And he lives it tragically.
Let's
not forget.
Yes, he does.
Let's move on to the second image, and there we have a landscape piece by Van Gogh again. I think now he's come to a place where he knows what he wants to do. He knows where he's heading, and he's managed to find himself a style all his own. This owes, I cannot think of anybody, maybe a little bit of El Greco We can see Samuel Greco here, but that's about all, really. He's made his style his own. It's still on Impressionism, but it's beginning to head to Expressionism. That is my reading of this. Leslie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think there's a lot of what I see in this. Maybe it's because of the swirling clouds. A little movement, isn't there? There's in the whole. Apparently, he was quite taken by. This is the view from the hospital he was in. Apparently,
no, yeah.
And he, I mean, it's a wonderfully put together composition, isn't it? From the left to right, there's a sweeping. There's a line crossing it. It's all wonderful. It's still a window into.
It's still a window into the world tradition. Yes,
yes. But as you said, you know, he still gives it that strength, you know, in the colours that he uses, but also being, well, I don't know, not abstract.
It's heading to abstraction. There's a sense of abstraction of reducing the form to a sign and a symbol. Still very much within the window. You've got to remember that the break from the window into the world tradition to the pure modern mind takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight. And every artist takes bricks away from the edifice of the academic tradition and adds bricks to the new building, the skyscraper of modern art. And this is a big step towards coming away from the narrative story to the expressionist. Because now the artist is an author in his own right. He now has the right to think what he wants, and to paint what he thinks, and interpret.
Which is, you mentioned Greco before, the view of Toledo is completely hallucinatory, really.
That is very close to Van Gogh.
And it's very close to here. But two things, you mentioned the division, and very clear, what is happening on top is, I think, very different to what's happening from the mountains
down. Very interesting,
down.
Gino. That's very. Because, I have to stop you there, Gino. We need to go to a break.
I'm hot.
We'll be back in a minute. Thanks for watching. Gino, you were saying that you see El Greco's, is it the Annunciation?
Or no, the View of Toledo.
The View of Toledo,
right, that hallucinatory and quality. And here we have the division, but what's happening on top and what's happening at the bottom, there's the Hermetic tradition, there should be a parallel, but I see a big difference between what is happening on top and what's happening. The top looks very Art Nouveau to me. Those curves are almost the curves that the architect Horta
Art Nouveau comes from here.
Yes, but this curve and this
the stylization.
The stylization.
It's the design, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very different. It's very designed on top from the earth.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's a wonderful phrase by, actually who was contemporary with Van Gogh, the English poet, Gerald Manley Hopkins. And he talks not of landscape, but inscape. An inscape. And this is where we are. We are in an inscape. This, like Monet.
Exactly.
Monet looks at his garden, and the garden is reflected in himself, and he transmutes it almost like alchemy into the work.
That can be said for the whole of the modern tradition.
Totally.
That they were all experimenting artists. They were all experimenting to see what they could find inside, in resonance on the way they lived and the conditions, the social conditions. They let it all go in, and then they worked it out in canvases and sculptures, etc. Leslie, back to the Van Gogh. The brushstroke of Van Gogh.
Again, it's very a very bold expression. We're going back to
that is the right word to use. Yes,
but it's obviously a very bold expression when when you look at the colours, blues, yellows, and greens. And there
Yes.
isn't much going on there, other than a bit of black here and there and white. And it's, you know, there's no fear in expressing that. There's no attempt to hide the brushstroke. You know, perhaps in the other one might be an attempt at a little
some
bit
control,
towards
some control
there,
some
of the
academic
material.
allegiance. Yeah,
Absolutely, but
Yes.
there's a definite
So,
bold
And
sign
also
there.
are we saying that now he's in touch with himself? He's in touch with his spirit. He's in touch with his feelings to give him that confidence to break away from his former way of painting, to finding himself with these bright high colours and these marks which are all his own. He
Definitely.
seems to have become one with his ideas.
Confidence must have a lot to do with it, I guess.
I think there's a dichotomy here. The freedom of the sky, and I forgot to mention before also maybe the influence, and we know they were influenced by the Japanese hokusai, and I see it a lot on top, that fluidity of the Eastern Zen tradition with something more muscular and more ego present. Because that's something we forget, that you were mentioning his portrait, but those brush strokes almost become, I know it's paint applied, but when you look at them, it's almost as if they was carved in.
Yes.
There's a for me, when I look at Van Gogh,
A stamping of a personality.
see,
Yeah?
when you carve into the wood,
You're
it-
making a
leave a
mark.
mark, you leave
yes,
a mark.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're leaving a mark. But
yeah.
with him, it's if with wood you subtract, here you add.
Yes.
With painting, it's
See,
a
but
question of adding.
isn't that what the modernist mind was looking for, of authenticity and genuineness?
See, no, yeah.
Looking back at the 500 years of academic tradition,
And
they were
it's
wanting to see a personality, because at the end of the day, you went to college and every artist came out painting in the same way. To the better or lesser extent, they all knew how to do it.
Yes.
Well, these guys come across and they just blow the minds
It's
of
trying to
the
get
viewers.
away from the whole idea of pure 100% realist representational work. This is a move towards, you know, what we said before is expressionism. It's finding a new language.
A new language,
in,
exactly.
in trying to represent something.
Yes.
That was
Still
the-
representational.
A new
but-
voice, yes.
That was the whole point, and it's good that there's no formula for finding yourself.
Exactly.
When Van Gogh and Gauguin get together in Arles to live in the Yellow House, they think, or at least Van Gogh thought, wow, this is going to be like the meeting of two giants of contemporary art, and it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
Yeah, it's a big
so,
clash.
yeah, you know, it's a big clash which ends in violence. Well, his ear goes up, you know, and it's a complete breakdown of a friendship. You would have thought that they would be in agreement, but no, and they tried it. There are
Or at least to work in
that-
that same
and that
direction.
comes-
the
and that
different
comes
chairs
because-
by one or the other, the
because
portrait of one or the other.
They were both as convinced as the other of the genuineness of their vision.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And they were both right.
See,
And neither
See,
of them
see.
was wrong.
No.
Yeah.
They were both right. We get symbolism from Cézanne,
Yes.
and we get expressionism from Van Gogh.
see.
But I suppose also that comes. We're fortunate. In hindsight, we
Yeah, we can see
because
the
obviously
pattern.
the pattern evolving. But at the time, I guess
Let's
There
move
was
on
all
to
a
the
bit of
last.
They're working it out.
They're working it out.
Let's move on to the last image. I want to show you this picture, which is a complete painting. This is Van Gogh's last painting before he shoots himself. But we're going to concentrate on a detail of his work, because I want to bring out the powerful brush strokes that had never been seen before in painting. This is the first time this brutality is seen in art. This massive use of paint and this mixing in the canvas itself. He would paint with pure paint and he would mix on the canvas. If you look at that cloud, it has not been mixed before in the palette. This has been mixed on the canvas. Gino, his last painting, full of nostalgia. I mean, it's a very foreboding painting. The black crows, the wind, is foreboding something. Maybe that is a romantic view
Yes.
of the painting, because I saw the film. And maybe that's influenced
Yes.
me. But I can still see a very powerful, dramatic moment here.
Let me have a look at the original. Well, no, the big one.
The full size one.
Maybe this is a bridge between the potato eaters, and the landscape. Maybe this is the moment of release. He's going to die, and those crows are the darkness that is
Approaching.
that is being lifted. No. He's going to see clearly. So the crows are
flying
about to
away.
go, are flying away. Because I mean, this and there was one color that was like, again, totem for at this time what yellow. Yeah, and yellow, the color of suppose since the Middle Ages, the color of madness. And it's there's that we have to take that.
See, we need to look at everything. Yes.
See, in Saint-Remy, in the asylum, but for him, yellow and the cornfields, and again the religious aspect is to be drowned in yellow. And the cornfields are that as a release. He's found
a moment of madness. No.
See, and of release, and I think of recognition. That's where he wanted to be, in the cornfields, with the crows having flown away.
It seems to me that there's a sense of wanting.
Reconciliation.
There's a sense of
maybe through
there is
the
a sense of wanting to be one with nature.
Yes.
Not just become just another aspect of nature, but be part, like a Zen, a Buddhist idea of losing yourself, your atoms being lost within the atoms of nature. That seems to be very much in Van Gogh's mind at this time, I think, just being lost and out of the pain that he was in all the time.
Because maybe the crows represent, the crows are out for what they can get, and he doesn't need the crows, he doesn't need the influences. You can see, when we go to exhibitions or to museums, we are like crows, we say,
pecking away.
Pecking away, and what can we get? So, but the crows here, for me, I interpret it like that.
Yes,
they're flying away, and it's released, and he's free on that. There's also the path. Well, no, there's two.
Yes.
There's a kind of path that swirls in and curves in.
Goes to nowhere.
Which leads, we don't know where. Where? Obviously,
Leslie, your thoughts on this last painting?
It's interesting what Gino said about the crows and the fact that they're painted in black. Black was never a color that was favorite with the Impressionists and Expressionists.
No, they banished it from the palette.
They banished it from the palette, but he uses black. I mean, this might have been again a precursor to that, but the black there, as in a recognition of, as you say, the darkness lifting, and perhaps, I think it's a very emotive.
There seems to be a vibration, like. It reminds me of the Scream by Monk.
Yes.
There's that vibration, and this has the same thing for me. The whole of the atmosphere is vibrating. There's something about to happen, and it's capturing the electricity and the way that he's maybe he's contemplating already. Maybe he's got the gun in his pocket already whilst he's painting this canvas. We won't know.
No.
But it was only after I finished this work that it's quite nostalgic and quite harrowing to think of this, and then think, well, an hour later he was in bed dying.
Although we could interpret it the other way. We've interpreted it positively, but we could also interpret it negatively, and the crows are coming for him.
They're coming to get him.
The coming death. And gentlemen, we have to leave it there. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.